Fantasy Football Universe, welcome back to another Devy Game Day preview where we're talking top 25 matchups and players to watch. I have two special guests with me today. Very own JT.com, my man Tom Harvey, here to just bring you up to date on some players you need to keep an eye on for your future rookie drafts. But let's go ahead and bring in our guests today. Tom and JT, how's it going, my guys?
Hey, what's happening?
What's going on, brother?
Doing good, doing good. I know we got some fans here, Tom. I know you like Tennessee. JT, I know you like LSU's a team. I know you're a fan of it. You're a fan of different teams, but this is gonna be exciting, man. We're getting into the bulk of it with these teams here, as far as it's really going towards that push, right? And there's a lot of competition going in, and we're just gonna get right into it because like Miami, number 6, is at Louisville today. Miami is favorite 4.5. Miami trying to go to 7-0. Louisville trying to go to 7-2, or excuse me, 5-2. Excuse me, I'm getting my numbers confused. 5-2 here. I think this matchup can be a lot closer than we might think, especially because Miami's kind of struggled. But Cam Ward's balling. If you don't have him in the Heisman race, I don't know. You need to watch it because he's doing great things with this Miami offense right now. I wanted to say Miami covers this, but I think this could be a 3-point game. I mean, JT, what do you think about this game?
I mean, I'm expecting Miami to cover here. I think that right now that offense, it's rolling on all cylinders. I know that the defense has had some holes the last couple weeks, but Cam Ward's obviously chasing that Heisman. I think they're going to do everything in their power to run up the score in a sense. I do like that stable of running backs at Louisville though, so if they can control the clock when they have the ball, like you said, they have a chance to keep it within a score. So
sure. Tom, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going back over the last couple of weeks for Miami. They've really struggled against kind of average teams, right? So now, granted that having to go cross country to Cal, was probably a big factor in that, but at the same time, Cal should have never been in that game with them, and they were actually blowing them out until Miami made a late comeback.
Mm-hmm.
So until Miami kind of gets back on that track of beating teams throughout the game instead of having to come back in it, I think I may take Louisville kind of money line in this.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I like it. And even this, I mean, the crazy stat is their running back Isaac Brown is the first freshman to run for over 300 or a 300-yard games since Lamar Jackson. And mind you, Lamar Jackson was a quarterback in college. He wasn't a running back. So that's just crazy to show, what Lamar Jackson did, but also, what Isaac Brown is to that team. So it's definitely going to be on Miami's defense to contain them. I think Louisville does have some playmakers. And Louisville's a team where if they get up early, let's say they get up 2 scores, Miami's in trouble because Cal, they just blew that. I mean, they were doing great, and it was at Cal. It's at Louisville here, so Louisville's this hostile as an environment. So I mean, this could very well be a upset in itself. I think Miami pulls it off. I do like Cam Ward. I think he has a lot to prove in this game. Coming in, it was like, how do you act in these big moments? We've seen Cam Ward come out and do big things at first, right? And then after a while, he just wasn't able to as well. We have a question in here real quick. Full PPR, no, it's NFL. He actually said, oh shit, it's college, but full PPR, pick one Cousins, pick one flex. Oh, Lover Cousins, and then pick one flex, Chubb, Dubs, or Shakir. For me, I like Love. I don't think you could really bet against him. I think they love the passing game. I'm not playing Chubbs yet. I want to see what he does here, so I'm gonna go with Dubs just because also Amari Cooper is now in Buffalo as well. So I'm gonna go Love and Dubs. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want the stack, you gotta go with Love and Dobbs, but Cousins has been pretty fantastic over the last several weeks. So I mean, it's kind of hard to argue there, but I probably would go with Love and Dobbs.
JT, same.
yeah, I think that Green Bay Houston game, I'm taking the over on total points there. Texans are missing Lassiter in the secondary. They're missing 2 starting linebackers. I think that game's going to have some points scored. So yeah, Love and Dobbs for me.
For sure. Yeah, look out for a shootout there with Houston and Green Bay. Let's get to our next game here, though. Another ACC matchup. Virginia at Clemson. Clemson number 10. Clemson favorite -20. Clemson's balling. So I mean, I really can't say that, but I mean, Virginia is also doing pretty good. They've lost a couple here. Um, Klubnik, man, Klubnik is really coming into his own. I was down on him. Going into the season, he's really stepped in, and I feel he's gaining confidence back. He's starting to grow into it. I mean, Clemson's number 10, right? And arguably, they are the best team in the ACC, over Miami as well. So, I think this is a very good game for him. Virginia, I know, has their own playmakers in itself. You talk about just he White that can do things for him. That's West Virginia, excuse me. But you have different players for Virginia as well. This could be closer. Clemson has the benefit that this is at home, right? So that's gonna be huge things for them. But what are y'all thoughts here?
I mean, the way I look at this game, Clemson's rolling right now. Klubnik looks like a man reborn basically this year compared to the last, year and a half or so. Virginia's okay, but the ACC plays no defense. I'm expecting Clemson to cover here pretty handily. Tamorian Parker, too, the edge rusher for Clemson, looks like a first-round pick, man. That guy's a freaking monster. So he's a game record just on his own. I think Clemson covers handily.
What are your thoughts, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, Klubnik's been really good ever since that Georgia game. Go back to that first game of the year against Georgia, and that Clemson team looked like they didn't belong in the top 25 at all. Now they're putting up big time points. Klubnik's looked great. Phil Maffa's looked really good over the last few weeks. Antonio Williams has kind of had a resurgence. Even Adam Randall, has kind of looked looked pretty good. I know Bryant Wesco is going to be out for this game, but I don't think that's going to matter much.
For sure. And we talk about one thing. Shout out my guy from the UK, Fantasy Wildcard Devy. Thanks for stopping in. But when we talk about Klubnik and what he could do for the team and the defense, really, you brought up Tamarian Parker, Barrett Carter, Sammy Brown. I mean, one of the highlights in Virginia is Kobe Pace, right? I said the running back on the wrong Virginia team earlier, but Kobe Pace is their running back. But so he's got to have a big game and really get through his holes and not allow Clemson's run defense to stop him. I think that's a huge highlight for them. But I do think Clemson pulls it out. Like you said, Tommy, they just kind of reshaped everything. I think there's a lot of criticism on Klubnik. Is he a guy that could make it to that next level? I think he's trying to prove that, and he has to go through the full season, right? Because we've seen it at any time he could win all these games and then all of a sudden just lose everything as well. So he has to go through a full season. But right now he's looking phenomenal. He's really stepping into his wide receivers, and as you mentioned, Maffa as well, doing some good things, which is good because they needed that with Shipley leaving out there. So in the over. I don't know if this is 20 though. I think this is closer. So I don't think I'm going to take the Clemson minus 20 here. I think it's closer than what it is. What do you think on that, Tommy?
I think 20 is probably pretty fair, honestly. Clemson's been scoring a ton of points lately. So I could easily see Clemson mid 40s here, meaning Virginia would have to score in the mid 20s to cover. I just don't see that happening. Clemson covers.
JT?
Another little tidbit for this game: Virginia's somewhere around 120 in the country when covering tight ends. They're just terrible. So I'm expecting Brian Ingstool to just eat in the middle of the field in this game. So, yeah, I think Clemson covers here pretty handily, 42-10 or something like that.
Fair enough. The next game here, again, we got some slobber knockers here. I mean, this Saturday is lined up with packed games. Next one, Nebraska at Indiana. Indiana, surprisingly, looking phenomenal this year. It's favorites 6-5, but on the flip side, with Indiana being 6-0, Nebraska's 5-1, and I could argue Nebraska could be ranked 2. Dylan Raiola's looking nice for a freshman. He's had his slip ups, which you understand that's going to happen. On the other side, though, Indiana, I mean, they're doing things that's like, oh snap, we gotta pay attention to this team, right? So, I think this is going to be a very good game. This is going to be very nice. It's at Indiana, so they do have the favorite here. Nebraska, Dante Dowdle, y'all know I'm a fan of Dowdle there, what he can do for them. But as well as Indiana, they got some playmakers as well that can make some plays. Curtis Work is balling out. I know some people even talk about he's a potential candidate to, be in the late Heisman running there, just the way he's balling there. They have a good running back in Ellis. Elijah Sherrod's looking really good. And then their defense has been, really shut out for them. And I think that could be the tell of the tape here. Nebraska has a good defense too. So this could be one of the tougher, defenses that Indiana's faced this season. I think Indiana ends up pulling it out though, but I think that's more so, Nebraska with Raiola just being the freshman. I think he makes a costly mistake here. But what do you think here, JT?
That's what I'm most excited to see here is, it's just another fun road test for a freshman QB with a lot of promise. So I'm excited to see what Raiola looks like, at Indiana, with that loud home crowd. Two very well coached teams here, though. I think Indiana's going to win, but I feel like this is one of those, game-winning field goal type games where they don't cover the 6.5. I think Nebraska keeps it tighter than that.
Tommy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I see Indiana as having the superior talent here. Surratt is the best wide receiver in this game. I think Rourke is vastly underrated. I thought he was pretty good at when he was at Ohio. That was prior to spending basically all season last year injured, and then obviously making the trip over to Indiana this offseason. I actually think that this may be kind of a battle of kind of coaching here. Does Matt Rule get it done, or does Curt Cignetti get it done? I actually think Cignetti's the better coach, so I'm going to go Indiana.
Spicy. I like it.
Fair enough. Yeah, this will be huge. I mean, like you mentioned, JT, just a battle for Raiola. I mean, this is what college football is all about, right? How do you go through these type of games? This could definitely if he comes out here and balls out, this could definitely put him on the map even further than what he already is, right? He was a top prospect. So, I mean, if you watching college football, you knew about him. But either way, winning a big game like this against an undefeated team, again, I can argue they're ranked. They come in here and beat Indiana at Indiana. They're going to end up pushing for the top 25 there as well. Next year, though, this is one, a lot as crazy, but in the sense, Missouri has been struggling a little bit. Auburn at Missouri, number 19. Missouri's only favorite 3.5, despite Auburn being 2-4. Peyton Thorne just has not looked good to me. I mean, that's been the tell of the tape for them, right? And what he's doing for them. And Jacquez Hunter, I know Missouri has a little bit of a vulnerable run defense as well, so that can be a game where he actually runs all over them for him. Missouri is Burden playing. I think he's good to go, but he was banged up last game. So, how is that going to impact his game for there? Because I think that's huge. Nate Noel, I believe, was questionable. I don't know if he's going to be fully in. So that means, you have Marcus Carroll coming in for Missouri. And will he end up being taken over, the full snaps and being able to just move the ball with them as well. So I get it being 3.5, but on paper, Missouri should cover this fully and blow it out. But I also know Brady Cook Burden hasn't looked what we wanted to. So can Auburn sneak in and pull this one off? What do you think, Tommy?
Auburn can if they don't turn the ball over 4 times.
Okay.
That's been their issue, right? Go back and check out the games that they've lost, and they've basically been just turnover machine. Peyton Thorne himself has been a walking turnover. So, I mean, he single-handedly lost that game against Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So, if they can avoid turning the ball over, they have a shot. But they haven't been able to do that. So I'm gonna go Missouri to cover.
What's going on, Jamie? Glad you're joining. JT, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mizzou covers here. I think Tom nailed it on the head there as far as, Auburn not being able to protect the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if Thorne just can't do anything offensively in the first half. If they don't go back to Hank Brown at quarterback, he showed some promise in the game and a half that he played. He is a true freshman. So, you just never know. I think it's better to take a shot on what you don't know than something that's clearly not working in Thorne. He's a 5th-year senior, something like that. You kind of know what you have in him. I would like to see them, go to the freshman, let him work with the young talented receivers there, see if they can actually move the ball a little bit. But yeah, I expect Mizzou to handle this. I know Cook and Burden haven't looked great, but yeah, I mean, those are two guys that, third-year players, both of them, they know exactly what they're doing. I think they get the job done here at home.
Well, just kind of the crazy thing is they haven't given – they got Walker White there. They haven't given him an opportunity at all.
Yep.
And my main question with him is that at the end of the offseason, at the end of the season, is he going to look to transfer out, especially with Deuce Knight coming in?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is more so just on Peyton Thorne. I mean, he's just looked a mess really for him, and I think that's gonna be it. Missouri's defense gonna need to capitalize on that to build it. My only worry is, like I've said, I've seen Missouri struggle, and I feel if Auburn can get up somewhat, Missouri's gonna have to be playing from behind. I think that pressure on Brady Cook will just hurt him even more. So Missouri will win. I'm just scared about it just because they've looked rough, even though they're where are they? They're 5-1. I mean, it still hasn't looked as pretty. But also, that's also saying we were heavy on Luther Burden, right, being one of the top receivers, so we expected just a phenomenal season from him, and it's just not up to where we want quite yet. So I think that's the big thing there.
By the way, Nate Noel is off the injury report this morning, so he's good to go.
So that's good. I like him. I was talking about him all offseason too from Appalachian State, right? They know how to get some good running backs here. So I like that he's going in and he'll be ready to go for them. That will be a big boost for their offense as well. When he's running smoothly, that just opens up the offense even further. So Nate Noel there, that gives me a little bit more confident in Missouri there. Next one here, though, we're going to talk about East Carolina at Army number 23. Army favorite -17. Army's balling, man. I don't know. This quarterback out here in Army is just looking great. Army and Navy, they're actually looking really awesome. If you haven't watched their games, watch them. It's a lot of fun to watch. East Carolina, 3-3. They've had their struggles here and there, but they're pretty good too. They have an okay defense, but I think Army single-handedly, just runs over them. This guy, daily for them, the quarterback is looking phenomenal. He's doing everything for them. 738 rushing yards and 14 rushing TDs on top of his 6 passing TDs. I mean, looking great. I think Army covers this single-handedly. Tom, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Army is one of only three teams in the country to not trail this season. So them, Indiana, and I believe probably Texas. I'm not 100% sure what the other team is. I'm assuming it's Texas, but I do know that there's 3 teams who have not trailed this year, and Army is one of them. So I don't see that happening at all in this game either. Being at Army covers by 17 easily.
What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the better run games in the country. They just run it down people's throats. First 6-0 start in almost 30 years, which is pretty cool for them. Just it's always fun when Army and Navy are good going into that game at the end of the year. So, yeah, I think Army covers here pretty handily. They control the clock and just run it down East Carolina's throat.
Jamie's asking if we have any locks of the week, sure bets. Let him know and he'll add it to his. I think Army is the sure bet. I think that this one we're on the topic here. I mean, this is a lock. I mean, they're just looking great, man. Like we haven't seen this type of Army team. I mean, the offense is running smoothly again. Army and Navy, man. I like watching them both. They're a lot of fun to watch just because they're actually moving the ball down the chains, consistently. So the offense is just very high powered, high scoring for them. So that'd be my lock of the week for them. Do y'all have any specific lock of the week right now?
Yeah, we're gonna get there here.
We're gonna get there. Sounds good.
Yeah,
this has no introduction really because it's the next one is again Slobber Knockers, man. I'm excited for this Saturday, but we're gonna let Tommy take this over because I know this is his team. But Alabama 7 at Tennessee 11. Alabama favorite -3. This is crazy, man. JT, we're doing our mock, right? We're gonna start doing our mock here. Y'all said you and Spencer, were higher on Milroe than I am. I think Milroe ends up being the day 2 pick. Y'all say he could be a first round. I get it. I've always been someone that's been off of the Alabama quarterback, so it's always been something where I'm like, is it Alabama? Is it the offense? He has playmakers. I know DeBoer's there. DeBoer's looking good. Don't get me wrong. 5-1 versus 5-1, 2-1 in conference versus 2-1 in conference. I've already said enough, though. Tommy, Tennessee is your team. Talk us about why Tennessee can do this upset here.
Well, you asked for the lock of the week. Here it is: Alabama -3. Tennessee's not winning this game. Offensively, they've looked terrible over the last 3 games. Even going back to the Oklahoma game where they won, the second half they just completely shut it down, and they haven't looked the same since. They've been shut out in the first half the last 2 games against very average competition. Alabama's much better than both Arkansas and Florida. Alabama can score. Tennessee hasn't been able to. Also, the fact that if you go back and you look at who Tennessee has played this year, their defense hasn't had to work overly hard. They're going to have to in this game. So Alabama -3 is the lock here.
JT, thoughts on the game?
Man, that's tough. I mean, obviously Tennessee being at home, are they doing the whiteout today? Is it going to be full on whiteout in the stands and all that?
No, just the normal game, normal Alabama Tennessee game, 3:30 kickoff.
Well, that's too bad. I mean, yeah, Tennessee's offense has looked very rough the last few weeks. Ollie is not moving the ball the way I thought. I really thought him and Josh Heupel was like a match made in heaven, so I was expecting that offense to be much more explosive. Tennessee's defense has been really good over the last month or so, but like you said, the competition level hasn't been there. If they can cause a few turnovers by Milroe, especially red zone turnovers to keep them off the scoreboard, there's a chance. But yeah, I do think that Alabama covers here. They're just too explosive on offense, especially Milroe. When he's rolling, man, he's one of the best in the nation.
And then you look at the fact that Tennessee's offensive line can't block anybody. The tackles have been terrible. Lance Hurd and John Campbell both have not been good. Lance Hurd looks like an average guard playing left tackle. His footwork has been really, really bad. His conditioning has been really, really awful. Also, that and the fact you combine that with both of them have gone through injury this year. I just don't see them being able to block on the edges.
2 people I didn't talk about that I know are rising Devy boards for sure. I mean, one, Ryan Williams on Alabama, right? The true freshman there. I don't know if Tennessee has anyone to necessarily stop him, just because of how big of a playmaker he really is. You throw it up to him. Once the ball's in his hands, this kid is a Madden game, right? He just does phenomenal moves. You saw it against Georgia, that back juke. That's something you legit do in Madden. You just hit that joystick back, and he did it and made it look, special. And then on the opposite side, though, Tennessee, Dylan Sampson, he's came around, right? And this is a rising running back for a lot of people, just the way he's been able to move with that Tennessee offense, something I feel Tennessee hasn't had as much. We've been seeing just the quarterbacks make wide receivers do good things, but now there's this running back is making the Tennessee offense move down the field as well, and that could be a big game. That could be your tell safe there. I know Alabama has solid linebacker cores, but if Dylan Sampson can get some wiggle room and just move it to kind of elevate some of the pressure off of Nico Iamaleava, that's going to be huge for them as well. So, you have Williams on the other side where I think that's going to be huge on containing because Tennessee's, their defensive backs have been vulnerable. On the opposite side, it's going to be a big game for Sampson on what he can do to these Alabama linebackers, because if he can get going, that makes it easier for Tennessee. If Alabama can close down that running game and not allow him to get through the gaps, then that's going to be harder for Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava to get to his wide receivers there. JB has this one. We'll circle back to this one. He said he bet the money line for Clemson, A&M, Washington State, Tulane, Vanderbilt, and Bowling Green parlay. 213, 100 to get 147 back. Then go back and look at all the teams. We talked about Clemson, so that's good. We're going to get to A&M, Tulane, Vanderbilt, and Washington State. We'll look at those and see what that looks like. But he's also locking in Army and Alabama, so good job. We say those are good. Let's see here. Next one. Notre Dame 12 at Georgia Tech. Notre Dame -14 should be something. Georgia Tech's a lot of fun to watch too, though. I mean, you talk about Haynes, you talk about King, Haynes King, and Jamal Haynes. Both their running back and quarterback, both 5-2. And truthfully, I think this one could be an upset. We have Notre Dame -14. I don't know if I want to take that. Georgia Tech can put on points on the best of them as well. Notre Dame, I've seen had some flaws. They've kind of woken up since that Northern Illinois loss. But at the same time, you still kind of it's nothing exciting, I guess you can say, to watch, right? It's like, all right, you're winning these games. Where Georgia Tech, I think, has a bigger chip on their shoulder to come out and say, okay, we need to. This is a big game, right? You're 5-2. You go into you host Notre Dame. If you're able to win, Jamal Haynes, we know is an elusive running back. He makes defenders miss. Haynes Keene is looking great. You have Singleton Jr. for them as well. I know Allen no, that's just Stanford, excuse me. I know Bo Collins is a good wide receiver for Notre Dame as well. But I think Georgia Tech can actually pull this off. I'm a huge fan of Georgia Tech and what they do offensively. I think they have playmakers on this side of the ball where once they get the ball in their hands, it's hard to bring them down. So I think they can cover this. I think Georgia Tech can pull upset here. What do y'all think on that? What's your thoughts, JT?
I mean, so I was kind of dunking on ACC defenses earlier, but Georgia Tech's run defense is actually really good. So Notre Dame's bread and butter is the run game. Jeremiah Love is a freaking beast, but Georgia Tech's run D is good. Haynes King being out today, that's what's going to hold Georgia Tech back from doing anything. Good skill position players, but I think that offense goes as Haynes King goes, and he's not playing today. So I think Notre Dame covers here for that reason alone. But yeah.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
I'm not sure either team scores 14 points in this game. I don't think Notre Dame's going to be able to run the ball on Georgia Tech's defense, and I don't think Georgia Tech's going to be able to move the ball at all without Haynes King. I can easily see this game being like a 13-7 type of slobber knock, rock fight type of game.
Well, but you would hope Riley Leonard would show why he's a quarterback in this game and actually be able to move the ball around a little bit, but
he hasn't. So
yeah, exactly, I can't bet on that. So.
And Leonard, he's just the offense has just been stale, right? It's like you're not. You went to Notre Dame. There was supposed to be big things happening for you, right? Your final year of eligibility going back, and it just has not looked good. I mean, it was a lot of hype going into the season, and then they just, the A&M, I know they won, and then you have Northern Illinois kind of sucked the life out of just Notre Dame in general. Riley Leonard, I don't feel has officially bounced back. It just looks rough watching them play. It's not as exciting as it has been for Notre Dame football. They're winning, so you can't be mad at them, but it just hasn't been as great there. Next one here, we have Michigan 24 at Illinois 22. Michigan favorite -3.5. Man, Illinois, we talked about possible highs with you. Luke Aldemeyer, out of Illinois is doing great things. 1 interception on the season to 14 touchdowns. He is moving to say that he is helping Illinois move down the field. You also have Caden Fegan, who's not looking as explosive, but that's where you have Aldemeyer come in to make some big things. Michigan has looked very vulnerable. We've seen them time and time again. They're just definitely not the team, but their defense, is okay in the front seven. They have some good playmakers on their defensive line. It's their offense that has had the struggles that I think continues to do that, and I think Illinois can win this game. I don't think it's an upset for Michigan. JT, what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. Michigan, they've been a weird team all year, but Illinois is interesting. Altmaier's looked good. Transferring Ole Miss, I believe, to Illinois, he's looked really good for them. Pat Bryant's looked really good as one of his main weapons. Mullings has looked like a monster, man. Michigan has no quarterback in sight, but I expect them to just run. Mullings looked awesome. Edwards, I don't know what happened to that guy. He was 12 months ago, he was considered a possible 2025, RB1. Now we're looking at him as, not even draftable. So, we'll see. I think Mullings runs down their throat, though. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that.
Tommy?
Fun fact here, whenever Altmaier was whenever he was a kid, my dad taught him in Sunday school. So, for that reason only, I'm taking Illinois here. Not really, but it's not the only reason I'm taking Illinois here. I am taking Illinois to win this game outright, money line, just because their offense is able to move the ball a little bit. Michigan can't. They have no passing game at all. So basically your defensive scheme should just be to load the box against Michigan and force them to try to throw the ball downfield to who Colson Loveland, I guess, is really the only guy to throw it to there. So load the box, force them to throw the ball downfield. They're not capable of doing that, so Illinois is going to take this one.
Yeah, I love it. Illinois, man, I love what Altmaier's doing for them. I mean, it's phenomenal seeing it. And like I said, he's balling there as well. He's almost playing to perfection. Like I said, one interception there, but doing some great things for them. I mentioned Army and Navy and how fun they are. And Navy's actually ranked 2, and that's our next one. Charlotte at Navy 25, Navy minus 16. Navy themselves has themselves a quarterback as well, and Blake Horvath. I don't know if I said that correctly, but 771 yards passing, over 560 rushing, 10 rushing touchdowns, 7 passing touchdowns. Again, just a team that has a lot of fun to watch and making plays on the ball. And Navy has a very good defensive linebacker in Colin Ramos as well. This is something where Charlotte just doesn't have the power. I just think Navy is on the groove right here. They're going out, they're balling out of control right now, and they're they are undefeated. Yeah, 5-0. So I mean, I think they're gonna go in here and they're just gonna take this single-handedly. I don't think this is a close game. I think it's gonna blow the 16 out the water. Tommy, what are your thoughts?
Both Navy and Army are on collision course here, right? Now they do have a bit of a speed bump with Notre Dame coming up. Both of them have to play Notre Dame. But if they can both get past Notre Dame unscathed, they're going to be facing each other undefeated at the end of the year for a chance to go to the college football playoff. So Navy covers this game minus 16. I think it'll probably be even more than that.
What are your thoughts here, JT?
Yeah, similar narrative. Similar to the Army game as well. Navy's run game is just too much. They're going to control the clock. They're going to control the ball. I'd be surprised if Charlotte scores more than once.
Fair. Yeah, I think it's great. They can be beatable. I think we've seen Notre Dame lose again to Northern Illinois, and I think Navy and Army have better offenses than what Northern Illinois has. So that could be a fun matchup down the line as well for them to have a big contest there.
Those are very tough offenses to prepare for.
Yeah, Northern Illinois took this exact strategy to beat Notre Dame that Navy and Army are going to approach them with. Run it down their throat.
Locking in Navy. These are some good matchups, man. Navy and Army, when they're playing, their schedules, right? We're not talking SEC or anything like that, but that's why you pay attention to those, because they're out there balling. So, I mean, I think that's a good lock for you as well. This next one is fun as well. It's Texas A&M 14 at Mississippi State. A&M minus 20. SEC, we're talking Le'Veon Moss versus Mississippi State front seven. Le'Veon Moss has been balling out of control as well. 609 yards right now. He's doing great things, averaging 121 yards per game. That really is what the offense is moving on. He's definitely stepped up, especially with Ruben Owens being out. So I really like what they're doing there. The offense, is it still Wyman going in, or is it they're freshmen? What are your thoughts here, though, JT?
I mean, it should be Wagman playing today, but that's really what it comes down to. Is he going to be able to move the chains? I think they're going to rely on Moss. They're going to, be in a lot of third and short situations, third and manageable. So it's just whether or not Wagman can move the chains. Mississippi State's one of the worst teams in the SEC this year, across the board, offensively and defensively. So, again, if A&M can convert third downs, I think they cover here.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing saying this, but A&M has a better defense than what Georgia has. So, Georgia allowed 31 points to Mississippi State last week. I don't see that happening this week for A&M. A&M covers minus 20.
Yeah. I mean, talk about that A&M defense. I mean, Samar Charter, Nick Scordon, who honestly, I know we talked about Tennessee earlier. A lot of people had James Pierce is top edge rusher. Gordon's making a name for himself there too. Transfer from Purdue, doing great things off the edge for A&M. Tareen York as a linebacker there for them as well. Their front seven is loaded, so they definitely have that defensive front that can make some big plays. It's really been Wyman, I feel, has held them back. He hasn't lived up to what we wanted him to be so far at A&M, so I think that's a big boost for him. But luckily, like you mentioned earlier, Le'Veon Moss has came in and done some big things for them, so that's huge there as well. This next game is actually my official full upset. This is a big game, and it's a ranked versus unranked, but it's LSU number 8 at Arkansas. LSU favorite -2.5. I guess it's not really upset with LSU just being favored very little, but I think Arkansas, 4-2, they've looked good. They've had some hiccups here, and why they have 2 losses, but LSU hasn't lost since their big one at USC, so that's big as well. I know Garrett Mustar is a rising quarterback for people. People like Lacey, they look better with Durham there as well. Losing Harold Perkins hurts them, on the defensive front there as well. But Arkansas has playmakers for them as well. Jaquin Jackson, a phenomenal running back, one of the top ones for them as well. So I think this is a big game for them that they can actually pull off that upset, and we can see, Jackson, be a driving force for Arkansas to move it down the fields and just, make some plays. But what are your thoughts on here, JT?
I think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. Taylor Green's healthy, so that's going to be fun to see him 100% again. Nussmeier is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in all of college. He just layers the ball so pretty. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Nussmeier needs to play a clean game. He's had a few games where he'll throw a pick or two early and then he'll clean it up. So I want to see him, clean from the jump. Then Taylor Green, like you said, Jaquindon Jackson's been awesome for Arkansas this year, but it's just, same thing like I was talking about, in the last game. It's just converting third downs. Like Wegman, the same issue. Is Green going to be able to keep moving the ball, keep the LSU offense off the field? The defense is vulnerable this year, so if Arkansas can stay on the field, they should be able to score some points and possibly pull out the upset.
Tommy, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say that a rivalry game like this could be viewed as a letdown game for both teams, right? LSU, who's coming off that big win in overtime against Ole Miss last week. Arkansas coming off a bye week, but the week before that they beat Tennessee. So it's kind of weird to say that this could be a letdown game for both teams, but it possibly could be. LSU going into Arkansas has looked really good this year. Both their losses have been because of turnovers. They lost to Oklahoma State in overtime, and then they lost A&M in Dallas. But it's really difficult for me to say Arkansas is not going to be able to pull this off. Mainly because they've looked really, really good. Taylor Green has been solid both running and throwing the ball. Jaquindon Jackson is one of the best running backs in the SEC. Armstrong on the outside for them, big physical wide receiver. Luke Haas, I believe, is now is healthier than what he has been. Especially coming off that bye week for them. I see Arkansas winning this game.
Yeah, I think so too.
Haas is a hoss, man. I love that guy. That dude's a stud.
We're gonna get back to this game too, but I just want to shout out, what's up, MJ Master? Thanks for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe, everybody watching. We have this show coming on every Saturday morning, talking top 25 matchups and players to watch, and then we have shows going on every day of the week. So make sure you're subscribing to the channel so you're staying in the now. But he's asking, would you trade Jordan Love away for Jaden Daniels? I think you can have 2 answers here, because if you're a team that needs to kind of rebuild, I think you go Jaden Daniels. He has a lot more hype. However, I think Jordan Love is we've seen him do it in the top 5. Jaden Daniels is doing that right now, so don't get me wrong. But I think if you're competing, guarantee, you're in the playoff race, I think you just stay safe and keep it with Jordan Love. But if you're in the rebuild, I would go Jaden Daniels. And in Dynasty, though, I think you take Jaden Daniels. What are your thoughts on this trade here? What do you think, JT?
I'm trade. Love's the safer bet. But I'm all upside when it comes to QBs, so I'm trading him for Daniels 10 times out of 10.
Tommy, same thoughts?
Yeah, Jaden Daniels has kind of been unreal this year. He's easily probably a top 5 quarterback even right now as a rookie. Jordan Love isn't far off that, but I'm still sticking with Jaden Daniels here. Doesn't matter what your roster build is here. It doesn't matter if it's dynasty. It doesn't matter if it's redraft, keeper. I don't really care here. It's Jaden Daniels.
There you go. We have it. 2 out of 3 say Jaden Daniels guaranteed. So yeah, go do that trade if they're offering that for you. But yeah, well, back to this game, LSU Arkansas. This is gonna be a fun one. This is what I've said, man. We've had this is probably the first week where we have so many close matchups, like below 15 at least, as far as like points against for the winning team or whatever. But LSU at Arkansas, this is huge. Arkansas comes out and pulls this out. I mean, you could argue that they're ranked. We've seen 2 lost teams in the SEC be ranked as well. Arkansas is moving, and I think it lives on Jaquinton Jackson. As you mentioned, Taylor Green's doing some big things as well. But I mean, Jackson is looking phenomenal. He's what they wanted Raheem Sanders to be last year, right? He just looks like he has that steps, looks like he has a little bit of extra juice in him as well. So it's very exciting to see that type of play from Arkansas again. Like they just kind of revive themselves, with Jaquinton Jackson and Green there as well. So I think this is it. And it's also because it is in Arkansas, right? If it's in Death Valley, if it's at LSU, I'm not necessarily taking Arkansas over that because that's a crazy environment to be in. But with it being at Arkansas, I think that gives them some saving grace there. However, this leads us to the college game day of the week. And that is Georgia number 5 at Texas number 1. Texas favorite -5. This is huge. This is Texas is undefeated. They're the number 1 overall. But I feel this is probably their biggest matchup, right? This is their biggest one to say, all right, go put a stamp on the SEC and say you are the leader in the SEC, right? Georgia, and this is really what every conference, your Big Ten, your ACC, when they're balling out, even your Big 12, right? You bank on the SEC knocking each other down, right? So for like Oregon, for example, Ohio State, even you want Texas to lose this one because that gives them a 1 loss. Now you're undefeated, so now you have this chance to jump up. This is going to be a big game. However, the way Texas is playing, man, I know they haven't played the toughest competition, but the way they've been played, they just look on all cylinders, full system go. The best part is it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You can have Arch Manning back there. You can have Quinn Ewers back there. The offense still looks good. It's not like, oh, we're having to sit back and now we got to play conservatively. No, they still move the ball down with whoever's the quarterback. Their wide receivers are doing some great things for them as well. Their running backs, you have what missing here for Texas, Jadon Blue, and then you have Trivian Wisner that came out as well. You have Isaiah Bond, Gunnar Helm. Who's that, right? A tight end. You don't talk about tight end a lot, but this guy's out here balling too. And then their defense is looking phenomenal. Their linebackers, Hill, Benda, looking great, making runs, stop making huge plays. On top of that, though, Georgia, again, this is probably the toughest defense that they've faced all season. You have players on them. Malachi Starks, a top defensive back there for them. You have Jalen Walker, one of their linebackers there for them. You have the receiving game is really what's here. They no longer have Colby Young. They suspended him from the team for some off the field issues. So now it's on Lovett, it's on Dylan Bell to step up. Will their tight ends come in? Will their running backs ETN or even Nate Frazier do some big things? I don't know if Georgia can step up. And Carson Beck has slowly fallen down just because he's looked. It's a system thing. Like with Alabama, it's a system that makes him look good. But we're seeing if those playmakers aren't there in Georgia, he's not looking as great right now. And so I think that's going to be the two-tailed to taste. I mean, Texas is firing on all cylinders, where Georgia, we've seen their holes. And being at Texas, they're number 1 in the nation. The fans out there in 6th Street, they love it out there in Austin. So it's going to be a loud environment. It's going to be packed. College game days there. I think Texas takes this. And I can see it. I see they cover -5 as well. Tommy, what are your thoughts here?
I think Texas wins this game. Georgia's just too one-dimensional for me. They don't run the ball well. You were saying Carson Beck hasn't really looked all that great. I think Carson Beck's looked fine outside of a couple mistakes against Alabama. That last throw he threw, that last interception he had against Alabama to end the game, it was underthrown. Yeah, if he puts that ball in the right spot, Georgia's still undefeated. But the problem with Georgia, again, they're too one-dimensional. They don't run the ball well, which is kind of weird considering the running backs they have. They got ETN, they got Frazier, they got Robinson, Then you take away a big time playmaker like Colby Young. They're not really utilizing their tight ends the way they have in the past with Brock Bowers. Delp and Lucky haven't looked overly great. They looked okay. Anaya Smith has looked really good for them, but Texas is way too balanced for Georgia to be able to compete in this game, I think.
JT, what are your thoughts?
Yep, this is my lock of the week. It's not even a slight at Georgia. Just like you said, Texas is rolling on all cylinders right now. I think both of y'all nailed it on the head. Georgia, they're not only one-dimensional. I think their skill position players outside of running back are the weakest they've been in, at least the last 5 years. I'm a big Dylan Bell guy, but outside of him, I just don't think Georgia has anybody. UT, they just look different, man. It, like you said, it doesn't matter the quarterback; they're scoring at will on every possession. Yeah, I just think they're going to be too much to handle. One thing, Gunnar Helm, the more that I've watched him over the last few weeks, he looks a lot like Charlie Kohler when he was coming out of Iowa State. And I know a couple weeks ago, Kohler had a big game for Baltimore. So just, I'm not saying Gunnar Helm's going to be some top NFL prospect or anything, but he's a guy that, could go on day 3 and end up, in year 3 being an impactful NFL tight end. I think he doesn't have any weaknesses, even though he doesn't have anything overwhelmingly that stands out from a skill set perspective. He's good at everything. So I like Helm a lot, man. I think UT found another gem with him.
Yeah, they're using plays to get him open, right? I think that's a big part for him, that they're finding ways to use him around the field. And to your point, Tommy, something Georgia hasn't been able to do with their tight ends, right? That's been the tell of the tape there too. Is like you have Delp. I know Yurisek's been dealing with injuries, but you have Delp, and coming out of high school, Delp was a top prospect, and it was really supposed to be him next, especially with Bowers gone. It was like, okay, they're gonna move Delp into that same spot, and they really haven't been able to do that with him. Where Gunnar Helm, they've been moved him around the field. He's tied with the lead, the team and leader in receptions right now. We talk about freshman Ryan Williams at Alabama. Ryan Wingo, I think is a solid prospect to keep an eye on as well. And he's right now third on the team in receiving yards with 296, 22.8 yards per catch. He's looking really great. It's just a crowded receiver room, and not even the crowded. It's just, again, the quarterbacks are feeding everybody. It's not necessarily they're just picking on one guy and hyper targeting. I mean, you have Isaiah Bond with 21 receptions, and I think he's banged up too. I need to double check, make sure he's playing. But then you have Gunnar Helm, then Wingo with 13, Golden with 19, Jadon Blue with 14. So they're feeding it and they're spreading the ball around, which I think just adds more to their firepower. That was a big question coming in, losing Wardy, Sanders, Adonai Mitchell last year. Are these receivers going to step up? And I really think they have. Tommy, I do have a question for you, though, because last year I know you said Nico's, QB1. Is Arch pushing for that, or do you still have Nico at QB1?
No, it's still Nico. It's still Nico. You just watch the way he plays. His internal clock is a little messed up right now, just because the way the tackles are playing, they're not giving him time, so he's just expecting to get hit all the time. So Nico's internal clock is a little screwed up at the moment, but he's still my Devy QB1 overall. Now with Texas, I am a little disappointed in them them not really utilizing Jonte Cook the way we had all kind of expected them to utilize him. We kind of expected him to be that Xavier Worthy stretch the ball down the field type of player, and they just haven't gone with him at all.
I mean, but it gives you hype. One, shout out, Jamie. I hope you win big, my guy. Let us know if you do win big. You know where to find the FF Universe. But then also with that, I mean, it just gives excitement, right? Because, yeah, you brought up Jonte Cook on what we wanted for him. Wingo stepped up. Next year, the offense is arguably going to be better than what it is this year, right? You have Arch Manning coming in. You have French coming in. French is my wide receiver, one of the freshman class right now. You have Wingo now, and then you also have Jonte Cook. I mean, they're
Baxter back.
Baxter, I forgot Baxter's injured, right? So I mean, it's just we think it looks deadly right now. I mean, Texas, man, and it could be them stepping into the SEC, but these are guys they've had before. So it's just they're looking like they're ready here. They're here to compete, right? They're like what Dale Eddy did going into Big Ten. Texas said we're going to the SEC. We gotta make sure we have talent on talent. So this is gonna be phenomenal. And I mean, I think what we're talking about them next year is only gonna be better. Or what we're talking about this year is only gonna be better into next year as well. I mean, they're looking great. Does this push Georgia out of the top? It should push them out of the top 7. They lose to Texas.
Yeah, if Georgia loses this game, they're really looking at not making the playoff. They have one big game left after this. That's them hosting Tennessee later on this season, November. The loser of that Tennessee Georgia game is going to be out.
Yeah. One matchup I wanted to mention for this game too, Shmuel Mondon's out for Georgia. He's the guy that wears the green dot. He's their middle linebacker, calling all the plays, the senior leader. So especially in the red zone, that middle of the field for Georgia is going to, they're going to leak some holes there. And I think Gunnar Helm, if there was an anytime TD, I'd put it on him today too, just because of the middle of that Georgia defense.
Which is crazy too, right? Because we were all expecting it to be Amari Niblack coming into the season, and it's been Gunnar Helm.
Yep.
That's been huge for them. This next game, I mean, again, just jam-packed with fun games today. UCF at Iowa State. UCF, a rising name for them is, running back RJ Harvey. If you watch him play, man, he's just a lot of fun as well. He's has the speed, has the elusiveness to make guys miss. 694 yards on the season and 9 touchdowns. Not getting as much look as some of your other running backs, possibly because he's at UCF. KJ Jefferson transfer as well, looking pretty good. He has over 1,000 yards already, at least moving the ball down the chain. On the Iowa State side, though, they're looking nice as well with Rocco Beck, leading the way there with 10 touchdowns, over 1,400 yards. Their running backs have been, coming into the season, Abu Sama was the guy I've looked at, but it's really been Jalen Jackson that's been stepping up for them, as well as Carson Hansen. Abu Sama's kind of been, he has 5 yards per carry, but he hasn't been their leader there for them. But they also have a receiver that, if you don't know about, you need to keep an eye on for Iowa State, and Jalen Noel. This kid is just phenomenal, has a good speed to run your straight routes, but also crisp route running, and can make defenders miss as well once the ball's in his hands. 528 yards on 29 receptions. Fun game back and forth. I expect this to actually be a higher scoring game than what we may see. Iowa State does have a nice defense as well. Minus 13. I think this might be closer to like a 10-point game than the 13, to be honest. But what are your thoughts, JG?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it staying within 10. Iowa State, Rocco Beck doesn't make mistakes, man. He's a very smart quarterback. I do like Jalen Jackson a lot. He's a late breakout. I think he's a fourth-year player, but he looks great, man. And Iowa State has a way of developing running backs. So, they're always going to have a pretty solid running game. I really like Kobe Hudson at UCF a lot. He's one of my favorite wide receivers, not really being mentioned in this 25 class. He gets open every play. It's easy for him. He creates separation with ease. UCF just can't stop anybody, man. That's been their biggest issue all year. Is they're in a bunch of shootouts. Even when KJ's moving the ball and they're scoring, they're losing 41-38, and they just can't stop anybody. So while I could see it being a 10-point game, I think Iowa State covers here.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
I think UCF is a bit of a mess right now. They actually replaced KJ Jefferson last week with Ja'Cory Brown. With UCF being as dysfunctional as they look at the moment, I'm going to take Iowa State to roll in this.
For them? That's fair. Hey, how's it going? Hey, Sam, appreciate you joining. And don't forget to like and subscribe, like he said there as well. I agree. UCF, Ja'Cory Brown, he saw that transfer from Miami, and that's someone that I really enjoy as well. He's a nice quarterback. Once Cam Ward got in there, he was like, all right, I'm out. So I'm always excited to see him on the field as well. I did forget to mention RJ Harvey, talking about his speed, 9 receptions, 195 receiving yards as well. Just phenomenal. I mean, this kid, keep him on your radars. Probably a day 3 pick, just how the NFL views running backs, but definitely someone to keep on because again, he's someone that I think if he gets the field, especially with the way special teams is now, he gets the field, show his playmaking skills, and then he's gonna be someone that ends up jumping in as a third down back and just making plays there for him. Similar to like what Bucky Irvin was, to be honest. This next one here, Kansas State 17 at West Virginia. Kansas State has arguably one of my favorite backs in the class. I actually just, asked you last night what it takes to get him there, JT and DJ Giddens. This kid just runs with power. He's a full-on strength runner, but he also has the elusiveness that makes the guys miss as well. So that's what I love about him, because you don't see that as often, like with these power backs, right? Like he could run through them, but he also has the moves to make the guys move as well. West Virginia, though, as I mentioned earlier, I said the name wrong. They have a pretty solid running back in Jaheim White as well, just someone that has the speed to him. Garrett Green's looking okay, so that's really the tell the tape there is, which running back is able to be stopped. I think Kansas State's defense is rolling as well, so they'll be able to do it. But I'm going to take Kansas State here. I think they cover this, and it's really just on the back of DJ Giddens. He's a lot of fun to watch. I think he's going to be rising the draft boards, and honestly, I could see him being a late third-round pick, just the way he's been moving if he continues to elevate his game through this season. Tommy, what are your thoughts here?
Kansas State's going to run the ball all day long here. Avery Johnson, DJ Giddens, Dylan, I'm blanking on his last name. Dylan Edwards. They're going to run the ball all day long here. West Virginia's not going to be able to stop them. I don't understand why the spread is only 3. Should be quite a bit higher than that. West Virginia can't stop them. And honestly, I don't think West Virginia is going to put up a ton of points here either.
JT?
Yeah, this is another one you can lock in. K-State's covering this one for sure. I'm a big Giddens guy. I have him across the board every CFF/C2C that we play in. I've been on Giddens since last year when him and Deuce Vaughn were wrecking together. He's awesome, man. Honestly, he does everything well. No weaknesses. Giddens is a stud. Avery Johnson. The big thing that I'm paying attention to in this game is Avery Johnson as a passer. I just want to see him play a clean game. I think K-State covers easy, but I really want to see him grow in that department because he's an NFL prospect, man. He has all the tools. I just really want to see, week over week, month over month growth as far as, getting through his progressions, playing clean football, knowing when to throw it away, that kind of stuff. So I'll be watching him today for sure.
West Virginia does have a walk-on freshman. Freshman last year that was a walk-on, and Hudson Clement as wide receiver as well. Who, he had like a 160-yard game and like a 3-touchdown game last year, and then they ended up giving them a full ride. So all the athletes watching, that's how you do it, right? Just go out there and ball. When you get your opportunity, you gotta take it. He definitely did that. Leading receiver right now for them, 22 receptions, 348 yards. So that could be something if he could beat the secondary there, but. Kansas State, I mean, their defense is phenomenal too. I think their defense is an underrated defense in the Big 12. As far as you're just not hearing about them because they are ranked 17, but there's someone that can make a name, and they can have a late season push. Right? Again, you have all these teams knocking each other out. If Kansas State can keep it rolling, we may see them hit into that 12th spot to get into that playoff race as well. So that'll be exciting to watch. And as y'all mentioned with Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens, it's hard to understand. Okay, who are we really gonna cover here for it as well? The last game though on the slate here is SMU 21 at Stanford. SMU minus 16.5. I love this. I absolutely love SMU. RJ Maryland. I've done a Devy diving on him. Check the fantasyfootballuniverse.com to see my article on him, or just our YouTube to see what I said about him. But I mean, I absolutely love RJ Maryland. Pure athletic tight end. He knows how to run, block down the field as well. He has the speed to do it. He needs to crisp up his route running a little bit, but I absolutely love him, and I think he's the leading wide receiver for them as well. Stanford, they've had their struggles, right? I know Alec Ayman is there as well. Their running back is, I'm trying to blank here on them. Is it Price? Is that who I'm thinking of? That's Notre Dame. Give me 1 second here. But what are your thoughts here, JT?
Yeah, I mean, Stanford's looked rough. I mean, I would love to see them not necessarily pack it in, but Elijah Brown in the minimal work he's got, I don't know if he's thrown an incompletion this year. So I would love to see them let the true freshman get out there and, just see what they have in him, because I think he could be something that kind of changes the direction of the program. I love Io Manor. That's another guy I've been on since last year. He's just big-bodied, high points the ball better than, most people in the country. SMU, they're rolling on all cylinders right now as far as, for what they are. It seems like ever since they decided to bench Preston Stone, they've unlocked a different part of their offense. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think SMU rolls here.
I always get Stanford and Notre Dame confused, but it's Ashton Daniels as the running back for Stanford and Price is over there for Notre Dame. But this is something where I think Iowa is going to need a step up for them. You talked about Kevin Jennings coming in. It really is just, if you could stop Maryland, maybe you have a chance. But the way he gets open in the middle of the field and just runs, he's not someone that's necessarily going to do much after the catch, but he gets open all the time in the middle of the field. He just has that speed and the awareness to find the soft spots there. Tom, what are your thoughts here?
Basically what JT said here. SMU's looked a lot different since they benched Preston Stone and put in Kevin Jennings. He gives them that kind of added component of being able to run the ball, being able to push the ball down the field. Preston Stone was kind of a gunslinger, right? Basically, just wanting to fit it into tight windows. That BYU game, he wasn't able to do it, so they kind of yanked him, and then they put in Jennings. Jennings has gotten better every week. The crazy thing with the ACC is you got 4 teams right now. I guess 5 if you add in Duke, but Duke looked terrible last night. You really have 4 teams who are competing for that top spot in the ACC. SMU being one of them. And none of them play each other other than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has to play 2 of them. Miami doesn't play Clemson. They don't play SMU. Pittsburgh has to play both SMU and is it Clemson or Miami? One of the 2.
Take a look.
But they don't really play each other. So at the end of the year, you're probably still going to have 3 or 4 teams right at the top of that conference who just haven't played each other.
SMU and Clemson, and then they got Louisville too, so that's huge. At Pittsburgh, man, just talking about that, Pittsburgh, they're 20th ranked right now. They're on bye this week, but Eli Holston has been a phenomenal quarterback. Transfer out of Alabama, go in there. He's definitely made them look completely different. Don't get me wrong; they have a running back in Desmond Reed as well that's helped that offense. But Eli Holston's a baller. If you can go get him, I think you should, because I think he's definitely going to elevate. I mean, we saw Kenny Pickett go as a first-round quarterback, and Eli Holston's better than him. Granted, the quarterback class he will be in is a little bit tougher, but I still think it's someone you want to keep an eye on, because I think if he continues this trajectory, he's someone that's going to be a top prospect that we're going to be talking about as well. That's it for the slate of games. I do want to ask your thoughts on some players from yesterday. Oregon, running on all cylinders as well. They're hoping Texas loses this week to bump up to number 1. Dylan Gabriel has been playing lights out. He's leading the nation in completion percentage. What's y'all's draft grade on him? Do y'all have him as a quarterback that can slip into a day 2? If Oregon goes undefeated and he, let's say, takes him to a natty, does that move him to a first round? But what are y'all's thoughts on Gabriel? JT, go with you. Or go ahead, Tommy, if you're starting.
My opinion, he's probably a 3rd round quarterback. Teams like to kind of draft those guys kind of in that 3rd round range if they feel that they're even going to be a solid backup. I mean, you go back a couple of years ago, Hendon Hooker, coming off the ACL injury, he was a 3rd round quarterback. Now, if you'd look back prior to his Tennessee career, he was undraftable, right? Mm-hmm. Virginia Tech, he wasn't any good. Comes to UT, now all of a sudden he was in that Heisman race all the way through the year until he tore his ACL, fell to a 3rd round grade. I see Dylan Gabriel kind of in that same type of mold there. Really reliable NFL backup. Probably going to go 3rd round.
JT, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment of Gabriel. Personally, I don't think he has NFL arm strength. But that's what I thought about Brock Purdy. So what do I know? I think he could be an NFL backup. I really don't see him like a guy. I liked Hooker a lot coming out. I didn't like him at Virginia Tech, but that year at Tennessee, he got through. I mean, Heupel's offense is very simplified, but the 2 progression reads that he had to get through, he got through quickly. And Hooker has a very good arm. So I really bought into him as a prospect. Whereas Gabriel, I don't know, man. I mean, Evan Stewart started to look better the last couple weeks, but man, Gabriel has 4 NFL weapons on his offense right now, and of course, I mean they're looking good, but I don't know. Like what you were talking about with these Alabama, I think Gabriel's more a product of the weapons around him than necessarily, what he brings to the table.
I mean, he
Honestly, I would rather play a Dylan Gabriel than a Will Levis. Will Levis is terrible, but
Fair, yeah.
Dylan Gabriel can at least think through the game,
Mm-hmm.
which makes him an NFL player.
That's true. And lastly, you talk about his arm strength. Last night he threw a dot to Evan Stewart, just down the field. It was a pretty ball just right into Evan Stewart's hands. But I think that's also on, that's a phenomenal wide receiver. Ches Johnson looks great. Terrence Ferguson, I know, got banged up, but then they have Kenyon Sadiq. They have definitely weapons all around. I agree. I think this is a product, and I think one thing I talk about on the on CFP Nation is in the red zone, man. He has just not. I know they've been scoring some things in the red zone, but he has also just not looked crazy. He's made some mistakes in the red zone that can be costly. I have one more question too on another team here. But Orange, thank you for joining. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But should I start Xavier Wardy, Ramondre Stevenson, Demario Douglas full PPR? New England plays Jacksonville. Yeah, but it's in London, right? So I personally don't like that. I'm going Wardy. I'm actually saying start Jacksonville players because they stayed in UK, right? They stayed there, so they didn't have to travel. You have New England having to get acclimated to the time and stuff like that. So I'm not starting my New England players, or I am starting some Jacksonville's, but I would start Wardy. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I love that logic for sure because that makes sense. Personally, Jacksonville's defense has just been atrocious, and May seemed to really like Debo as like kind of his, I guess, safety outlet in a sense. I think Douglas had 8 or 9 catches in May's first career start. So against one of the worst defenses in football, I think Drake May has an awesome second outing, and Douglas, benefits from that. So I'm going him full PPR.
Yeah,
Tommy, some thoughts.
I'm actually right there with you. I'm taking Demario Douglas here. Normally, I would say Xavier Worthy, but that San Francisco defense is going to key in on him. Ramondre Stevenson coming off the injury, I'm probably not playing him. So I'm gonna go Demario Douglas, especially with Drake May thrown to him.
Our guy Dr. Jill joined in. He asked if he can get a Go Tigers. So we say that's the upset, but hey, Go Tigers. But then speaking of prospects, I asked you about Gabriel. Someone that was super high on a lot of boards is sliding, and continuing to slide. Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. They had an opportunity to pull off the upset against BYU. BYU looking stout with their defense, came out and got the victory. What are y'all's thoughts on Ollie Gordon? And I mean, are you worried about him at that pro level because he's had such a it's not a bad season. Over 4 yards per carry, right? That's average, 491 yards, but it's not the 700. He's not on pace for 1,700 yards like we saw last season. So I mean, does that hurt him? Right now, they go back and double check, but I'll look at my rankings here. But JT, what are your thoughts on Ollie Gordon right now?
I mean, it's going to be up to him and his family at the end of the season. Personally, this running back class is so deep. I think Ollie Gordon would be smart to stay. And Buck Wild Sports, Old Spencer had a good idea that I liked. He mentioned earlier this week. Possibly a place like Oregon or UT, even Ollie Gordon transferring out for 1 year to kind of boost that, NFL profile. Oregon or UT, I think, man, he would be awesome in either of those places.
Tell me what are your thoughts here.
I think Ollie Gordon he's a top 5 Devy running back in my opinion. Still, I just think he's kind of in the wrong spot. Oklahoma State has really. I mean, I was talking about dysfunction earlier. Oklahoma State's dysfunctional. They really can't do anything right. They stay in their own way. They trip over themselves all the time. I think he's kind of in the wrong location. I'm right with you. I think he needs to transfer out, stay one more season somewhere else in college, whether that be an Oregon or even Ohio State's losing both those backs at the end of the
Yep.
year. I think that would be a great location for them too.
It's a good call.
About Georgia.
Georgia's too loaded at the running back spot as it is, and they don't utilize them. They're not utilizing them. I mean, they're not running the ball at all with the running backs they got, and
Yeah.
they're loaded with NFL running backs. So I don't see Georgia being a good spot for them.
Oregon with Jordan James, probably going pro, I think is a good one. Ohio State's a great one with Judkins and Henderson probably going pro. Michigan too, because Mullings is a senior. Edwards, I don't know what he's going to do, but Ollie Gordon slots in ahead of him immediately. So, without question. So, I mean, Michigan would be a great spot for him too.
Yeah. And we're seeing it more and more where guys are staying too, right? And as y'all mentioned, the running back class is so loaded. I mean, there's no way he's RB1 of this class, right? I mean, it's just there's so many top heavy guys for it that not even then. It's just we have guys that we'll be talking about in the 4th and 5th round that are getting drafted. They're like, oh, I'm taking these in my 2nd round of rookie drafts too, right? That's how loaded the class is at the running back position. Where the other positions it's kind of top heavy and then it kind of dies out. The running back class, I can probably name about 15 or 20 guys. It's like, hey, you should consider taking this guy in your draft, right? So I mean that's huge to consider as well. For it. Are there any guys sleepers that like you're thinking about just as far as players to watch that are catching your eye that haven't really been doing much, but it's like, all right, I do like what I see here as far as what they can do on the field, JT?
I mean, as far as like sleepers that aren't doing much, I mean, I think Evan Stewart's a good one. A lot of people are fading him because his numbers aren't there this year, but I mean, any guy that has a true freshman breakout, the way he did at A&M, I'm not going to bet against him talent-wise. I think in the right situation, in the right offense with the right quarterback, Evan Stewart is still, a stud, a game-changing wide receiver. So he would be. I did have one question for Tom real quick. We were talking transfer spots. What do you think of Tennessee if Dylan Sampson goes pro, like Ollie Gordon? Do you think Bishop and Selden are, kind of too talented and have a lock on that room next year, or?
I think if Ollie Gordon transfers there, I think that's a perfect spot for him too. I mean, he becomes RB1 immediately. I do like Deshaun Bishop, but there was a reason why he was a preferred walk on.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Selden hasn't proven he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on the injury report all year. He hasn't even played since week 2, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only that, but he was injured most of the season last year, and he's still learning how to play running back. He was more of a gadget wide receiver whenever he was in high school. So this is his first time to ever be a full-time running back. So yeah, I think if Ollie Gordon were to transfer to Tennessee, I think he's immediate RB1.
A Nico Ollie backfield could get scary, man. That'd be good.
Yep.
Tommy, any sleepers specifically that you have in mind?
Yeah, I've got a sleeper, but he's been kind of blowing up this year. Denzel Boston. I think Denzel Boston is a potential top 8 wide receiver in this draft class. Size, speed combo, good hands, good 50-50 guy. The strength he's got. Both him and Trey Harris kind of comp the same way to me. I think they're both the potential top 8 receivers in this class.
I love Trey Harris, man. I think Trey Harris to me is top 5, if not more. Let me double check here. He's 1, 2. I was top 3. So I mean, I think he's doing phenomenal things. One more question before I get y'all guys here. Shout out my guy Kmart. Thanks for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe as well to the channel, Fantasy Football Universe YouTube channel. We're dropping content daily, just to help you get ahead of your games here. But there is a big matchup as far as defensive back versus wide receiver. And I mean, defensive back, this guy plays wide receiver as well. But Ted McMillan plays Travis Hunter today. That's huge because a lot of people have, Travis Hunter as one of the top 3 picks in this draft. They potentially have Shadir Sanders as a top 3 pick, whatever it may be. But they also have possibly, Ted McMillan as the first receiver off the board. So it's going back and forth. I think that dual eligibility of playing both sides of the ball is helping Hunter, right? And he actually said when they were asking about Genty and Genty being the front runner for the Heisman, he was talking to RG3. Genty, he asked him like, okay, what is imagine if I had 95 catches or if I had 95, receptions to Gentry's 95 carries or something like that. Well, what would happen if I had that, right? Like, what would his numbers be like? So, a little bit of, not almost a jealousy, but a little bit of like, just imagine, like, put me in those shoes though. Like, if I had those same attempts, I'd be blowing stuff out the water too. I know people are heavy on Gentry. Tommy, I know you've talked about a G5 back. They're doing the comparisons with Gentry and Henry and Mark Ingram, stuff like that. We'll talk about that in a second if y'all want. But this matchup is huge. Ted McMillan, we've seen him be shut out and just completely invisible in games. But we also know if he's involved, he could be a difference maker. Travis Hunter, we're going to talk about the defensive side only. Don't bring up the offense. I mean, you can talk about offense. I'm not going to tell you not to. But the defensive side of the ball, locked in. He's someone that can close out on these wide receivers and make them irrelevant. This is a big matchup. Who wins this matchup today? JT, what do you think?
That's my wide receiver one in this class for sure. So I'm very excited for this matchup. This is why we watch college football, man. This is the go-to head-to-head matchup of the day. Getting to watch arguably the best player in the country versus the best wide receiver in the country. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, man. When Fiffett is on, that's really what it boils down to. Because if Tet had an elite quarterback, he's not going under 100 yards in a single game.
Right.
It really, it boils down to quarterback play for Arizona. Man, Travis Hunter, there was definitely some salt in that response. That was a very unrealistic thing to say. There's a big difference between 95 carries and 95 catches. He's crazy.
For sure.
But, I mean, I get it. If Ginty doesn't break Barry Sanders' rushing record single season, I think you have to give the Heisman to Travis Hunter, just for the two sides of the ball impact. But if Ginty breaks the record, it's his. Hunter can, suck it up.
Sorry, what are your thoughts?
Well, Travis Hunter is coming into this game a little bit banged up. He missed the second half of that game last week with that shoulder injury. Going up against a big physical wide receiver like Tet McMillan, he's going to have full health in order to be able to compete with him. But again, how often is Travis Hunter going to be matched up against Tet McMillan, right? Is he going to travel with him? Is he going to kind of be off on the wide receiver too because of this? Is Coach Prime going to kind of protect him a little bit? Because Coach Prime is all about getting Shador and Travis Hunter drafted in the top 5, right?
Yeah.
Problem I see with that is I see major maturity issues in both of them. I think they both have elite tools, elite capability, but they have. But they're both very narcissistic, and I don't see them, especially Shador Sanders. I don't see him being an elite NFL quarterback because of his maturity level. Everything else he's got is great. I just think him throwing his teammates under the bus and him being a me type of guy that doesn't work as a quarterback. I know you asked about Travis Hunter and Tet McMillan here, but as far as Tet McMillan goes, JT, you spoke about Dylan Gabriel having about his arm strength earlier. If Tet McMillan had Dylan Gabriel throwing in the ball, he'd be 1,200 yards already, and you would be talking about him having 60, 70 receptions at this point, the season. So Fafita has well below average arm strength. So it is kind of difficult to get him the ball whenever teams are specifically keying in on him, and the quarterback doesn't have arm strength to be able to get him to be able to get it there. So I'm right there with you. Tet McMillan is my wide receiver one in this class. I think it's gonna be a great matchup if Travis Hunter is paired up on him. If Prime kind of protects Travis Hunter here and doesn't put him on him, then I kind of have other questions there too.
This I'm gonna get back to what y'all were saying here, but be growing. Thanks for joining in, man. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Need advice for starting Cup over Brian Thomas Jr. Jack plays in the morning. Won't know if Cup plays till later. Other pivot option is Pickens. Bro, I am on the BTJ train. go ahead and start him up. I don't care if he's playing at 2 a.m. in the morning. You go ahead and start him up, man. This is the guy. Pickens with Wilson again. I don't know why they're doing that. They're 4-2 with Fields. Why are you going to just change that up all of a sudden? I know Fields isn't necessarily playing lights out, right? But you're 4-2. You don't just go in there and change it. That's stupidity. So go ahead and play Brian Thomas Jr. Love Cup, but also climb off injury. You want to see what he does first. He's definitely going to be used in the offense if he is playing, but Brian Thomas Jr. is the guy there. Do y'all have different thoughts on that?
If BTJ's matched up with old former Oregon Duck Christian Gonzalez, I think he has a very quiet morning. Gonzalez shuts everyone down. He's been awesome. So that's the only hesitancy I have with BTJ this week is if Gonzalez is specifically locked on him and not bouncing between him and Kirk and Ingram, it's going to be a long day for BTJ with Gonzalez on him. So, I mean, Kupp's the upside's crazy if he plays, that's a 20 target type. So it's hard to know.
Yeah, with the timings of these games, I think you have to go with Kupp, and then if it's for some reason Kupp doesn't play, then you do pivot over to Pickens, I guess. Mm-hmm. Just because of the timing here. If Brian Thomas Jr. was playing later in the day with the ability to get him over Kupp, then maybe. But just the timing of this game, I think I still go Kupp with the ability to pivot to Pickens.
Yeah. Back to Travis Hunter and Shadir there. I think it hurts. I know Primus came out and said they're not going to certain teams. Like there's teams they want to go to. I want to see what that happens. I know Eli Manning did it when he, was drafted and stuff, and threw a fit and ended up getting traded and whatnot. So I want to see if that happens for him. I appreciate it, Jamie. We'll see you. Best of luck in your bets there. If that happens, if they end up saying no to a certain team, because with Shadir, is he gonna be doing these things in Las Vegas, right? If he goes to the Raiders, like that's gonna be big. If he goes to the Giants, if they end up taking him, hey, all steam on deck, right? He has Malik Neighbors. I think that's gonna be a match made in heaven. But then if he goes to Tennessee, is that the same thing as well? Like Tennessee is probably taking a quarterback. I think they take Tet, but I mean they could take a quarterback too because they're struggling. So those are things I have issues with. Like where will Shadir go? I think that landing spot,
or even Cleveland. Cleveland would be a terrible spot.
Yeah, so but it would be because you have the offensives. I with that I think the line gave up on Deshaun Watson. The line has looked abysmal. They've been letting people get to him just fairly easily. So I know it looks bad, but I mean they have some weapons, right? I'd rather play with the Cleveland weapons than I would with the Las Vegas weapons right now, right? So you have
Bowers is better than anything that Cleveland.
No, that's true. That's true.
I will say I want to make it very clear where Shedeur is the QB1 in this class, and it's not close. I'll stick by that through the draft season. I'm very comfortable saying that. I know that there's definitely some red flags in some of his post-game interviews that I've heard where I'm like, ugh, doesn't sound like a leader of men. But I will say that Caleb Williams was very similar last year. There were some post-game interviews where I was starting to question his ability to lead grown men who are making millions of dollars, but talent speaks volumes, and it seems like the Bears as a locker room have, rallied around Caleb as their guy. I would expect, the Raiders or the Giants, whoever it may be that ends up with Shedeur, I think he's going to thrive in the NFL. He's a stud.
Yeah, I think who do y'all think goes first, Travis Hunter or Shedeur in the draft?
You don't ever see a corner go number one overall, so I'm gonna say Shedeur.
Well, I'll just be like who gets drafted first, not necessarily one overall, just drafted first.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If Shedeur is projected as a elite quarterback, he's gonna go number one. Whereas, Travis Hunter, even if he is predicted as a two-way player there, you don't ever see a corner or a wide receiver go that high. So I'm gonna say Shedeur is gonna be the highest drafted.
Yeah, I think Shedeur, Cam Ward, and Jalen Milroe right now are my 1 through 3 at QB, and I think all three of them look like top 10 picks at the moment, at least.
Moreau, man. God, Alabama quarterbacks. We're gonna close it out with this question. My man KR asked, you guys think Ewers has made a jump from last year? Seeing people talk about him being the top pick next year now. He's not gonna stay next year. There's no way in hell. I mean, with the way Arch Manning has balled out, there's no way he comes back. I don't think he has to go out there and he has to go in the draft. I mean, even if they lose, if for whatever reason they don't have a playoff, if they just choke down the middle and don't get to the playoffs for whatever reason, I guess you can argue it. But even at that, I think it just hurts him because at that point, I think they just go with Arch, right? So I don't think it makes sense for him. Right now, he is on all cylinders. Where if the draft were today, I think he has a top 10 pick. But and this is going for NFL. NFL, it was just my QB1 because what he's doing in the SEC right now, looking great. But again, we've seen Arch do it. So is it really Ewers, or is it just the system is doing flawless things right now, right? So, but he is doing great things there. I think he is a top quarterback off the board. If he stays, that hurts him because the longer he stays, the more it's like, bro, when's Arch Manning taking your job, right? So I think he had to stay this year. This was a huge year for him to say, hey, let me go into the SEC, let me ball out, let me show what I can do, let me raise my draft stock to be a top 10 quarterback or a top 10 draft pick, excuse me. I think that's what he's doing. So for me, I think he has made a jump. Injuries have always been a concern for him, and he was banged up this year. So that's there. You just got to suck that up and deal with it. But I think he has made a jump. What are your thoughts here?
Ewers has looked awesome. He's definitely made a jump from last year. That was last year. He could not get through progressions. He just held onto the ball too long. He made the wrong reads far too often. This year, that's been the biggest improvement. He's getting through his progressions so quick. He's making all the right decisions in the red zone, especially. He's been really smart with the ball. I still hate his arm slot where he throws from. That's why he's my QB4. It's probably just the person I do not like the look. It looks like Sean Marion shooting a jump shot. And hey, Sean Marion's a Hall of Famer,
Yeah.
so whatever. But I just don't like his throwing motion, man.
There you go. Sam, what are your thoughts?
In this draft class, Ewers has to come out. Honestly, I mean he's a senior. He's got to come out anyways. But in this draft class, it's loaded at the QB position, right? You know, you got Cam Ward, you got Shador, you got Milroe, you got Beck, honestly, you're probably going to have 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, and Ewers probably going to be one of them. So, you look at the quarterbacks who are available here in this draft class. Tell me who's not being taken in the first round. So
That's
that and the way with how quarterbacks have been taken over the last few years. I mean, Mac Jones was a first round quarterback, for crying out loud.
yeah.
So I mean, Quinn Ewers has got to be a first rounder, right?
For sure. Hold on. We're gonna circle back to this. We saw the record was, to my knowledge, 6 quarterbacks last year. What was the record of most quarterbacks in the first round? 6 this year. Shador,
Yeah.
Beck, Ewers.
Yeah. Okay, you got Beck, you got Nussmeier, you got Ewers, you
Nussmeier's
got
the 6th one.
You got Sanders, you got Milroe, you even have Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I was wondering who the 6th one was, and Nussmeier, I like that. Dart too.
Well,
yeah. I mean,
Shador, Ewers, Nussmeier,
Milroe.
Dart, Ward, Milroe, Beck. So 7 essentially.
Yeah, you got 7 guys who have potential to be first round picks.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. This is some spicy stuff here. So hold on. We're gonna go down the teams right now. New England doesn't need a quarterback, right? They're good. Cleveland, yes.
New England needs a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback.
Jacksonville,
no.
No.
Carolina
needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
That's 3.
Okay. The Rams.
Yep, I would say that they're going to need a quarterback.
Okay.
Stafford's getting old, dude.
Tennessee
needs a quarterback.
Bengals, no. Saints
need a quarterback. There's another one.
Okay. Arizona, no.
They're good.
Las Vegas, yeah.
Yep, they need a quarterback.
New York, the Giants,
yeah. Quarterback.
Dolphins,
maybe need a quarterback. I mean, Tua. I mean, you don't know what Tua's long-term prognosis here.
Yeah.
Imagine Quinn Ewers in Miami with those weapons, though. Good.
But you know what? If Miami takes Ewers and they're taking another small quarterback, Ewers is small. He's smaller than physically. He's smaller than Tua.
You take Cam Ward and keep him in Miami.
Yeah, there you go.
I've had that, but I also think Miami trades up and gets Shador. That's my spicy take for them if they trade up and get him. The Jets,
The Jets
argue
need a
them.
quarterback.
Okay, so right now we're at 9 teams. This is just the first round. Seattle.
Nope.
Possibly.
Seattle's good. Seattle's good. I mean, Gino's only what 30, 32,
so.
something like that. 32.
Yeah.
So Gino's good for another couple of years.
And they have Howell back there, and I think they want to groom him, right? So
right.
I like that.
Let's see. You have Denver. No, they just got Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas. They just signed Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Philly. No. Chicago. No. Indy. No. Okay, I guess the rest were really no. I'm looking at it. Yeah, I mean Pittsburgh. Maybe I don't think
Pittsburgh
they will.
Probably. Pittsburgh probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then the rest though. I mean, no, I mean you can't say the Vikings. They got McCarthy, so they're not going to take it, right? Or
you're looking at probably 10 teams who could be looking at first round quarterback.
Spicy, man. Spicy. Heard it here first. Another 6th-round quarterback draft, which will be great because that pushes. I love when that kind of stuff happens because it pushes the value down on other guys, right? Because they don't get drafted in the first round. So we talk about how deep this running back class is, where I think there's a lot of trap plays for some quarterbacks where if they go to positions, there's some quarterbacks in here where I think they're going to need the talent around them to be good. They're not quarterbacks that elevate the talent around them. You know, I talk about that all the time where you have quarterbacks that do good things and make wide receivers good, but then you have quarterbacks that are good because they're the wide receivers, right? Jaden Daniels is proving me wrong. Glad he is, but that was something I thought with Daniels. He had 2 elite wide receivers. The elite wide receivers are still doing things in the NFL. And you talk about Malik Neighbors, Daniel Jones. People hate Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones is a top 10 quarterback with Neighbors on the field, right? So he's a quarterback that a wide receiver makes him look better, right? Brian Thomas Jr. Lawrence hasn't been looking good, but Thomas is a top 12 wide receiver right now. So those are type of players you see. So, but then that drops down. You know, I got Thomas at the end of the first round last year because people took some of the quarterbacks because it's like you 6 in the first round. We're taking these guys first. So it definitely elevates their value and pushes other guys back, which I love. So that's really good there. Yeah, I agree with KY here. I don't think all of them need to be taken in the first, but we see teams hit the panic button, say, hey, we need our quarterback, right? And they don't want to miss on dropping them. Like Cam Ward, I love what he's doing.
Yeah, the Falcons took Michael Penix Jr. in the first for no reason. So I mean, you're going to see these guys being taken in the first round.
Yeah, Cam Ward, I love him. I think he could be a first round, but he definitely needs to do it for the full season. But I mean, he has one of the best arms, and I love this kid's work ethic. Like you watch tape on his work ethic, like he's first on the field, last off the field kind of mentality. So he's going to be doing some great things as well. So I just absolutely love that.
I mean, barring a late season like Joe Burrow-esque run from Nussmeier, I do think Nussmeier returns, even with Bryce Underwood coming in. It'll be similar to Ewers returning with Arch coming in. I think Nussmeier returns for one more and balls out next year too. I don't think his play, lessens. But I don't think he'll end up in this class for quarterbacks for whatever reason. I just think he has another year.
And I don't think I'm going to correct myself here. I know DeCory Moore transferred out for but Nussmeier, they still have plenty of talent for him. I'm just trying to see top 5 2025 wide receivers because I know Lacey's going to be leaving. Yeah. So I mean, they Derek Meadows, out of Bishop Gorman, top prospect. So that'll be phenomenal for him to get there.
LSU skill position, they're always. Trades Green's a true freshman this year at tight end. Really more of like a big slot. So
CJ Daniels will be coming back.
Yeah, they've got weapons. Yeah,
and then Durham looks great too, right?
Also, don't forget the transfer portal. They could easily bring in a top end wide receiver.
Yeah,
especially with some of these teams that have deep wide receiver rooms, right? Where it's like a guy just wants to go. Miami is loaded at wide receiver, but I think there's some of them that can be, leaving out and go. Nick Marsh at Michigan State. Yep. What if he ends up saying, "Yo, I want to go to the SEC and actually put my name on the map," right? So
Dante Cook, he's not being used. That's a guy you give Nussmeier that kind of weapon. That's crazy. So there's a lot of possibilities for that offense.
In Oregon, Jerry Dickey. I think Jerry Dickey's best move is to transfer out. I just think, and not on his talent. I just think there's too much loaded weapons there for him. So I think that's huge for him to be able to do certain things, to just go out and do something better. Hakeem Williams at Florida State. Different guys, but I agree with that. Um, Man, good topic at the end there, Tommy. That's spicy though. But teams panic, so you can definitely see 6, 7 quarterbacks potentially. We'll see it again. I think the way the season wraps up, right? We're getting to the second half of the season, a little bit way through it now, but it's going to be big for a lot of these quarterbacks. Jalen Milroe, after losing one, if he loses another one, I think that helps him slide. Cam Ward, just the way he is, I think he has to go undefeated for him to be locked in the first round. I don't see, if they lose one, I think that just drops him down to day 2. But I do like him as a top quarterback in the class. I just think NFL scouts see differently than what I do. So I think that'll be a huge part for him. But
losses in college don't really mean anything. Just look at Anthony Richardson. He went 5-7 and was drafted number 4 overall. So losses in college don't really mean anything.
And Caleb was 7-5. So
yeah, exactly.
Cam Ward's one of those guys that I expect to interview really well during the draft process. Like, I think just because he's an absolute dog, man. And I think GMs are going to fall in love with that. He's going to speak with like passion and vigor, and I think he's going to win over a lot of NFL GMs during the interview process. Ewers too. Ewers is going to interview really well, I think.
And that's where I think Shedeur might slip on that. In certain situations. And I'm curious to see, I forget what coach does it, but when they talk about breaking down the play, Shedeur is smart. I know he's a smart athlete as well, but I'm curious on who does the best on there and just, doing certain things, so.
Shedeur's a blamer. He'll blame everybody else around him.
Yeah, that's been the issue, man. That blaming that freshman, I think it was a receiver that he blamed in the post-game interview. I was just like, bro, you should have just take the blame. You're the junior quarterback. It's a freshman receiver. It's not a big deal,
Well, even against Nebraska, when he was like, how many times did he get hit, right? It's like, you can't, bro, you're lying. I mean, we saw with Brady, right? Brady, talked about his offensive line all the time, about how great they are, doing things for them. As a quarterback, that's your guys you want to talk highly on, right? It doesn't matter if they're letting you sack. Like, they're just gonna be like, bro, I'm gonna let you get hit again. Like, I don't care, right? So it's like you want to talk highly on them there. So a lot of exciting things to come. This is, to me, I think this is the most outside last week, because shout out Oregon, they beat Ohio State. But outside last week, this is the most exciting week in college football. We have games underway already, so I'm stoked to watch them. I know, Tommy, you want to watch that Tennessee Alabama game. LSU's on the radar. We talked about some of these top 25 teams. Georgia and Texas is going to be huge. Going to be dialed into that one. That's really going to be a tale of the tape. I think how those quarterbacks play out. We talk about Beck as a first round. If Texas just comes out and blows them out, I don't even know if Beck is a day 2 pick. Like, I think that just based some big things. Like, if that just shows, you don't have the weapons, and that's all you are, someone that has those weapons. But again, it's Georgia. People like him, so it might be highly whatever.
It may be a blessing in disguise for Georgia if that happens, because I'd like to see Carson Beck come back too. If he has another year, like, that offense always reloads. So I think he could be even better next year and really catapult himself into that top 10 discussion.
Yeah, and even with those bad interceptions he threw against Alabama, he still threw for 385.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so, I mean, he still had a heck of a game.
And you can't really fault him. It's Alabama defense, right? It'd be different if he's losing to, Mississippi State and looking rough, right? But it's like it's Bama, so I wasn't necessarily worried about that game. But he definitely, last year was a whole different story for Beck for me. I think Beck looked better last year than he does this year right now.
He also doesn't play defense. So I mean, Ryan Williams hitting that B button twice on that same play had nothing to do with Carson Beck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Williams is a special talent, and that's the thing. Like, I just feel they didn't attack as much. They got some guys that I would have rather them see go after other guys. Like Kobe Young's great. I liked him. Well, obviously now he's off field issues now, but I feel they could have got some other guys though. Better weapons. So attacking the transfer portals. Dabo's proving us wrong though, right? If they're in transfer portal, they're not good enough for us. And right now,
I have one question for both of y'all. That's like a hot button C2C asset discussion right now. Ryan Williams or Jeremiah Smith? Who's the wide receiver one?
I think they're 1A and 1B. Honestly, I don't think you can go with either one.
I think I'm working on something. Wide receiver U Ohio State versus LSU. I'm trying to get all numbers together to put that up. But I think Ohio State, the way they develop their talent, you're gonna choose them. Jeremiah Smith over him because Hartline's just moving monsters for him and first round picks. Guaranteed first round pick. Alabama, Ryan Williams right now is a lock in the first round, but we know for a fact Jeremiah Smith is going to be on that development train.
You also have to look at as far as the college side. You have to look at quarterback situation. I mean, right now Jeremiah Smith's rolling with Will Howard. So I mean, who's his quarterback next year?
Julian Sands. Awesome.
Yeah, who is Ryan Williams quarterback next year once Milrose?
Austin Mack. Let's go
right.
back, Daddy.
We don't know anything about Austin Mack, so I mean,
and then with those two guys, if they obviously they're not, but if they were eligible to come out this year, are they both ahead of Tet as wide receiver 1 in this class?
Jeremiah Smith would be, yes, just because his physical tool. I mean, he's physically ready for the NFL, whereas I don't think Ryan Williams is physically ready for the NFL right now.
I think Ryan Williams, but when it's all said and done, we may talk about him as that Devontae Smith type of Heisman candidate, right? To do it. So I think that's going to definitely help him out as well. I agree with him where Jeremiah Smith is ready right now. I have him as the wide receiver 1 overall in Devy. So I think he definitely will be over Tet. Williams is top 10. But I would have to put Tet just because, again, that size plays a little bit of a factor there for him. But I think right now, because people are heavier on Jeremiah Smith, you can trade Jeremiah Smith for Ryan Williams and something on top. Now, you're not getting another first on them anymore, but you can get something on top, maybe go after, possibly get Ollie Gordon because he's having a down season. I would do that. So I think it's definitely there, but I think the future looks brighter for Jeremiah Smith because of his situation, where Ryan Williams, there's some things happening, and it's also competition. He's played against top defensive backs in this SEC, but as Ty was saying, I like Julian Sayin and Air Lowland more than I do like Austin Mack. So I think that helps Jeremiah Smith as well.
Bama also has a 5-star quarterback coming in, so we don't know who that quarterback's going to be.
Yeah. Ryan Williams.
We don't know if it's going to be Austin Mack or not.
Yeah, we have no idea with Bama's quarterback situation. With Ryan Williams' feet, he looks like Amari Cooper, where like in college, where it's just he's like a ballerina, bro. That's the best footwork I've ever seen. Like it's kind of crazy, So,
but he's built like Devontae Smith. I mean, he's 170 pounds.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I'm pretty sure, like on that play with Georgia, he was like on his tiptoes like a ballerina. When he stepped back, it was like just straight tiptoes. The big toe just on the ground. That's it. And then he just, you didn't hear anything. You hear pen drop. That's how quiet and smooth it was. So I agree there. Guys, good show. We went a little over that hour there, but for the fantastic show. Before we let y'all go, JT, tell us where we can find you are both in the Devy Superstars C2C IDP League as well. So anything you just want to say to the league as well?
Find me at Sports with the Buds on X, Twitter. Devy Superstar, man, a big trade went down. Me and Spencer, I got Ramondre and Sam Laporta and gave him Dylan Sampson and Jeremiah Love. So, more investing on the pro side, trying to win it all this year. So we'll see how that trade works out over the next few months. I love Sampson, man. That was a tough one to let him go. And right now I have Jeremiah Love RB2 in the 26th class. So I let go of 2, higher RB prospects. But
there you go.
Fun stuff.
That's the exciting thing about C2Cs, right? You can trade your college assets for some pro assets depending on how you want to take it. If you're not on a C2C league, but you play Dynasty, looking for something to spice it up, I'd highly recommend it. Maybe IDPs are too spicy for you, but just try offense, man. It's a lot of fun and gets you more involved seeing what the future's all about. Tom, where can we find you?
You can find me on X at Tom Harvey Sports. Check out TotallyApexFantasySports.com. I'm the site manager there. I get a lot of Devy stuff up on there as well as a lot of DFS stuff. So just go check that out.
Awesome. Guys, for everyone at the Fantasy Football Universe, my guy, Sports with Buzz, JT.Cade, as y'all know him on Sleeper, Tom Harvey, Tom Harvey Sports, as y'all know him on X. I think that's your thing in Sleeper as well, Tom Harvey Sports, if I'm not mistaken. But thank y'all for joining. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We have content coming out daily. We'll be back here today with our Fantasy Roundtable talking about things high in fantasy football right now on the pro side of the ball. But until next time, I appreciate you guys joining. Join us next week for another Devy Game Day, talking the top 25 and players to watch. Thanks for joining.